everyone. Today's video lesson is going to be on irregular preterite tense verbs, which I call USTEPP verbs. Please make sure that you are following along and you are taking notes. Also, please make sure to write down any questions that you have so that we can address those as soon as you come to class. So, to get started, like I said, USTEPP verbs are irregular verbs in Spanish. So some of you ask, why does Spanish have so many irregulars? Well, in English we have them too. So the only difference is that in English, so our past tense verbs usually end in ed. But our irregulars do not. Instead, you have to change the entire form of the verb. For example, you would never say she runned, you would say she ran. You would never say I standed, you say I stood. So we don't just add an ed to our verbs like you do with a lot of other regular verbs. You have to change the entire thing. So always keep in mind that what applies in English will probably apply in Spanish as well a little bit. So don't get overwhelmed by the irregulars in the preterite tense. So to start, our USTEPP verbs, the first part is the U. So the U in the USTEPP stands for adding a U to the stem in the irregular forms. So some of you will ask, well, what is the stem? The stem is actually the part of the verb that does not include the ending. So we'll go over that in just a couple minutes. The STEPP, S-T-E-P-P, stands for the 5 verbs that fall into this category. We have the verb saber, which is to know. Keep in mind there are 2 different verbs that mean to know. This one is to know how to or to know a fact. Tener, to have. Estar, to be. Again, there are 2 ways to say to be. This one applies to feelings and locations. Poder is to be able to. And then poner is to put. So to form these verbs, like I mentioned before, the first thing that you have to do is change the stem of the verb. So the stem is everything but the ending of your verb. So remember, our endings are always AR, ER, or IR. So let's look at an example. We have the verb hablar. This verb means to speak. Now, if we dissect this verb, there are 2 parts. There is the stem of the verb, and then there is the ending. The stem is everything but the ending, so we'll take off our AR. Our stem would be habl, H-A-B-L. That leaves our ending, which is AR. So now with our irregular preterite verbs, which does not actually include the verb hablar, what you're going to change is the stem part, and then the ending is also going to change as well. It's not actually going to be the same endings as our other preterite verbs. And then again, you're adding our irregular endings. They all have a different stem, so all 5 of these verbs, their stem will be different, but they have the same irregular endings. All right, so las terminaciones, the endings of these verbs, they're the same for all 5, and they don't have any accent marks. So keep that in mind, because with our AR, ER, and IR preterite tense regular verbs, there are accent marks, but on these ones, there are not. So our endings are A, iste, O, imos, istes, and ieron. So let's start with our first verb. The first letter in STEP is S, so that stands for the verb saber, which means to know, as in to know how to or to know a fact. The stem is sup, S-U-P. So instead of being S-A-B like we would think it would be because that's the infinitive verb, we make it sup, and now we add our irregular endings. So we come up with this. Supe, supiste, supo, supimos, supistes, and supieron. So remember, if at any time you need to pause or stop this video, please feel free. Also feel free to rewind if you need to. The next verb in our series is the T for tener. This verb means to have, and the stem of this verb in the irregular preterite is tuv, T-U-V. You're going to take that stem and combine it with our irregular endings, and you end up with the following conjugations. Tuve, tuviste, tuvo, tuvimos, tuvistes, and tuvieron. The next letter in STEP is E, and that stands for the verb estar, which means to be, as in feelings or locations. The stem of this verb in its irregular preterite form is estuv, E-S-T-U-V. We take that stem, combine it with our irregular endings, and we end up with the following conjugations. Estuve, estuviste, estuvo, estuvimos, estuvistes, and estuvieron. Then we have two P's that end our U step. The first P stands for poder, which means to be able to. Its stem is pud. We take that stem, combine it with our irregular endings, and we end up with the following. Pude, pudiste, pudo, pudimos, pudistes, and pudieron. And then our final P stands for the verb poner, which means to put, and the irregular preterite stem of this would be pus. We take that and combine it with our irregular endings, and we end up with this. Puse, pusiste, puso, pusimos, pusistes, and pusieron. So a couple of examples. ¿Dónde pusiste mi cartera? Where did you put my wallet? Ella estuvo en casa ayer. She was at home yesterday. So these verbs still take their same meanings as they would in the present tense. They are just now past tense verbs. They just look a little bit different than the infinitive or their present tense forms. So again, please make sure that you have written down any questions that you have. If you need to rewind and rewatch this video, please do so.